Hey everybody, welcome back to the Provider Podcast. This episode is episode 1. What is infrastructure as a service? Today joins me with my co-host Lefer.
Yep.
Introduce yourself.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly introduce the both of us before we get further into this podcast and make a big mistake about not saying who we are. My name is Leifur Gunnarsson. I'm Icelandic. Infrastructure as a service is my daily job. I work for a cybersecurity company called Path, and its subsidiary Tempest Hosting, which is kind of just infrastructure as a service, the gist of it, everything to do with it. And we will get into that later. And Kobe, he is the chief executive officer and founder of Hybrid Hosting, a infrastructure as a service provider out of Chicago. That is a tongue twister. Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah.
No. You're a founder. I'm
And
a previous founder. We've both
Yes.
been in this. You know, we're I'd say we're on the younger side, but we're kind of, we've gotten into it, the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Being founders and you being a solopreneur, especially, where you've had to kind of just, every day is just every customer at a time.
For anyone starting a host, don't do it alone.
By a host, we mean hosting provider or infrastructure as a service provider.
Yes.
It's a certain word.
Yes.
Yeah, hosting is kind of just another word for it, but it is kind
Yeah.
of wider because I wouldn't call game servers or whatever infrastructure as a service. It's just
Right,
GSP,
right.
We'll
Yeah.
get into GSP later. But yeah, let's just make sure we get our mission right.
Alrighty.
You want to tell them our
So
mission?
I'll go over the mission statement. Our mission statement of this podcast is demystifying the pipe dream keywords is like cloud, infrastructure as a service, internet, and AI. Our goal is just to take these words and break them apart using regular, intelligible words that most people get, explain it to the average person like you.
Yeah, we just called a lot of people average. We apologize.
Yeah. No, I'm not apologizing. I'm
Let's
joking.
get
I'm
into
joking.
it before you offend more people.
Do you want to go over a bit?
let's do it.
Yeah. Do you want to go over base of just what is infrastructure in general?
Well, yeah, we're not as we say, acronyms and analogies. You get them thrown at you like, yeah, oh, it's roads, but for the internet or whatever. We're gonna explain it to you without using these acronyms that you need to Google and these analogies that you need to kind of what is this? Come on. So, infrastructure is network. It is storage. It is compute. It is access to a virtual environment or a whole server in a location somewhere, mostly a data center, which a building with internet and security and electricity, and you are basically renting that server. That's IaaS. The service part we'll get into later, but on infrastructure, these servers with internet and stuff, and also security and whatnot, are websites hosted, apps, databases, much more, video games as well. I actually wanted to get into how Netflix works because that's kind of something that people usually get very easily. But
Right.
do that later into the episode. But that's kind of, I think that's when you get really into what is infrastructure as a service.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it. The analogies used is like railroads or roads, but for computers, I don't think that's good. I think.
Yeah, me either. It's generally a lot of people like to try to describe what they do in simple terms, and I don't think that is always the best option, especially for what will be the future itself, as the internet is obviously becoming more prevalent and everything online in general.
I've kind of, if I may, I've kind of like when I'm at the bar and somebody says, what do you do? I go, well, I do hosting. I say, oh, what's that? It's like hotels with computers. It's like hotels but for websites. Yeah, that's cool, man. Sounds like you're in the crypto space.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh.
something like that. They think of doing NFTs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, let's do $1 million rug pull on your crypto coin.
Yeah, I sell monkeys, dude. Virtual monkeys.
Of course, of course, yeah. But yeah,
You said like the cloud is just another person's computer. That's
yeah.
we're talking
That
about
that is
one of those words we talked about, pipe dream words. The cloud.
yeah. So do you want me to go over like just hardware?
Yeah.
Sure. So we will probably go a little bit in more depth to what is actual hardware and what is a server in the first place in a later podcast. But I'll give the kind of overview for it because it's kind of integral to understanding what infrastructure as a service is. Hardware and servers in general, whenever you hear someone refer to as hardware, that is just the physical server. And whenever you hear server, that is the simplest explanation is a computer that multiple computers connect to, and that's about it. There are loads of types of servers. Theoretically, my computer at home could technically be a server. I mean, if you don't agree with me or there's something wrong, please tell me.
No, yeah, your computer is a server.
Yeah.
I mean, mine,
yeah, yours literally is. It uses server components.
Yeah, it uses specially enabled server components like a motherboard, which has certain applications on it or certain physical elements that make it a server board.
Yeah. So the basic part of a computer, you have. I won't go too much into it as this is really best saved for a future episode. But you have your processor, you have your motherboard, you have your graphics card, you have your chassis, which in the computer space of desktop computers is referred to as a case, and you have your power supply, which in the simplest thing is just supplying power to everything else in the chassis. Including your processor and graphics card.
Yeah.
And then also you have your RAM or memory, which is ultra fast storage, to think of it, that is specifically planned out for things that you're actively running. So currently, if you're on your phone, for example, your phone has memory. It is what this podcast is being stored in. I assume that's how Apple has their things done. I know it's how Android does it. It should be stored in memory. As I was saying, with hardware and servers, infrastructure as a service is just a building on top of that. So taking infrastructure could be somebody literally renting out just a singular individual server with a motherboard and a processor in it, and could be as complex as multiple servers in what is called a rack, or a cabinet. It is literally a giant metal box where you put these devices, servers, that keeps them safe and rugged and together.
Just the servers, we've seen supercomputers being leased out on AWS, for instance, Amazon Web Services. Right. That's infrastructure service.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting to. I was saying it can be from the individual server to full racks of servers, which can be like 42 to 52 servers, which includes networking, which we'll get to that, which is just how your computer connects to those servers, to entire buildings full of racks with thousands of servers, like the Frontier data center, Frontier supercomputer, which
many hundred homes worth of power as well.
Speaking of, I don't live too far away from the Frontier supercomputer, and I have a friend that works there. It's quite nice, actually.
Yeah, I could imagine working at a big computer.
Yeah, it would be nice.
You were in the computer. You're a component of the computer in that sense.
You are, yeah, exactly. It's one huge computer. Welcome to being an electron.
Well, we kind of explained the infrastructure part.
If you want to go into the as a service,
it's computers. What would we say? Computers, security, network. Is that it? It's access to the internet, security. Nobody's going to steal your stuff. So
and a part of infrastructure, it really depends, because you can have from the base point of somebody renting hardware, having nothing on top of that other than a few switches and doing everything software side. So they provide the security, they provide the protection, they provide everything. While it could also go up to completely managed solutions like web hosting, for example, which most people would understand that. And also, like, for example, Squarespace, like stuff like Squarespace or Wix. Those are managed solutions that are actually very consumer friendly versus, renting out a singular server, configuring the operating system and going up on that.
That's kind of a baby of infrastructure as a service. You're getting into more of, I would say, platform as a service with
Yeah,
Squarespace
that's fair.
because
That's
of the
fair.
software layer.
That is fair. I did not take that into account.
On ground, if we're at ground base, it's infrastructure as a service. It's still just,
And I
we'd more say that Squarespace to lease you or to service you with that website has to somewhere get their infrastructure as a service.
right.
The mother
Yeah,
of all
in that
internet.
case, I should have probably mentioned something like hosting or like GoDaddy or something. That's a little bit more surface-facing infrastructure as a service instead of just platform as a service.
Squarespace is good. I mean, people know what Squarespace is.
So
NordVPN, actually, I didn't think of that for our podcast notes, but NordVPN is
Yeah.
ExpressVPN. All these VPNs. We'll get into what a VPN is later, but they're using
and how you
infrastructure
don't
as a
necessarily need one.
service. Yeah.
Just beware, they're not security.
No, I saw NordVPN, advertise internet service provision services, like actual internet, when they were saying that ISPs were insecure and obsolete. What was it, 2-3 years
Oh,
ago?
gosh.
But yeah, they use internet, they use internet security and computers from IaaS providers. They're using Cloudvider. They're using one provider or Aegis hosting, a lot of other providers that they have specific teams managing their inventory of infrastructure as a service. It is key to their business. And that's why it's such an
Right.
important word to know, or a set of words to know, because everyone, all these big companies, fundamentally need this to work on. And if you know these terms well, I mean, and if you can work with them, you know what infrastructure as a service is, you understand it, it's going to be easier in your job to figure out what's actually going on behind the scenes, behind those screens, those apps that I'm working on. You'll have a greater sense
Right.
of, or less sense of complexity. That's what I've realized is, we have customers who barely know what they're doing. They're like, I need something for this. Is this billed monthly? Is this, am I buying a server? Can I have my server in Japan when you're buying one in Australia? Or they don't know about
Yeah.
the physicality of it. They still think it's software. So I think it's very important
Yeah.
to know this. But I wanted to get into the service part. Maybe you can start there.
Sure.
What a service means in terms of as
Yeah, it can be a simple. There's many different ways of actually billing a service. It goes down to the simplest form of product and service, product versus service. You have somebody raking your lawn or somebody selling you a shovel. Shovel being product, raking your lawn being a service. It's being actively used. It is not like a physical, tangible good. It is a concurrent thing that is being used up. That is the case for a lot of things. For example, like a YouTube Premium is a good one, or like Netflix, whatever their premium plan is without ads, and their pro things because they have ads now apparently. But like those, for example, those are services. They're not infrastructure as service, but they are services. And the main reason that a lot of these companies have started to pivot to services and like subscription services especially is because that's how infrastructure as a service is built, which, as we've been saying, infrastructure as a service is just someone either renting out hourly to monthly to even yearly physical or digital server space.
I mean, what
And
the DOJ, the Department of Justice, and Department of Defense have 10-year-long infrastructure as a service contracts with Amazon and Azure, Microsoft.
Right.
So, it's a long period, but yeah, service is just, it's not a product. You're not buying the computer itself.
And
So
there's
infrastructure-
obviously a bunch of ways that can be built. So you
yeah.
may see it as
Innovative
something.
ways.
Yes, innovative is a special word.
Yeah.
Like, for example, AWS's approach, which is it works well when it does.
Yeah,
I think
it's
that's
called-
pretty self-explanatory.
It's called resource to save corporations money, but because of the business intelligence complexity of how much do we need to sell to make gross, they have to bump up their pricing and also put a Amazon premium on it. So in the end, cloud used to be the money saver. It is now the complete opposite. because
Right.
we've seen the cloud getting more and more expensive, and now its growth is stagnating, and just ground infrastructure as a service is becoming cheaper and cheaper. Apart from
Right.
electricity in most places, because of
Yeah.
the world.
And whenever we say cloud, I'll hint to the next episode.
Yeah,
Next
see that.
episode is over demystifying the term cloud, and that is built on top of infrastructure as a service. So
The
if you hear
holy
us mention,
grail of corporate
Yes.
keywords for anything technology. Oh, it's in the cloud. AI is the new guy.
it's the big puffy white things in the sky.
And you learn how the cloud's actually in the ocean.
Hey, did you know that you're connecting to a big white puffy thing in the sky? Do you know that?
Where's the cable? It's birds. The birds are the cloud, right?
The birds, they're fake. I think all the birds are fake.
all there.
Exactly.
How do you bill? For instance, how would you bill your customers? And what do you
Yes.
serve?
So personally, in my company, Hybrid Hosting, we do a lot of different services, which would be infrastructure as a service is kind of a good overview for all of them. But like one of them being something called dedicated servers, which provides
word.
bare metal, which is physical servers being rented out with extra things on top, which includes security protection, power, network, and a lot of monitoring and maintenance of that physical server. We charge monthly for that. You can obviously have higher terms where you can do quarterly or yearly to save a bit of money. But in general, we do monthly service. And that is generally, the price of that is calculated just by price of hardware, maintenance costs, and power costs, which we'll go into are extremely high these days. So if you ever see large AI servers going up in price, you probably know what's going up in price as well.
NVIDIA has been on a roll, and I guess we could let people know why NVIDIA is everywhere. NVIDIA doesn't do AI. They're not an AI. They are the infrastructure. They provide the key of the infrastructure as a service for AI. They're providing the hardware component, which AI is.
And not even the hardware component, which is what a lot of people don't understand. Some people in our industry don't even know that, which is very strange to me. They actually don't build anything, like, at all. All they do is design GPUs and graphics cards, which...
And then they get
I should
servers
probably-
from Dell or Hewlett Packard, and they bundle them together.
Or
and they
Supermicro.
They sell them as entire cabinets.
Yeah, and it's all outsourcing. Like, it is all outsourcing. They don't actually ever touch the products that they designed, which is a little scary. But they outsourced it to a company like TSMC, which also makes all of your processors for, like, well, not all of Intel's. Intel does their own fab, but like they make all of the processors for AMD, which would be like your Ryzen's, your Epics, and also Intel's. So you have your like i5, i7, i9, your Evos, your Platinums, all that gross stuff, your laptop chips, and up to your enterprises, Xeons, and your workstation use.
TSMC is a kind of cornerstone of the industry, and NVIDIA is too because of their size. But
yeah, if anybody was doing really well right now, I'm surprised it's not TSMC that is doing better than NVIDIA. But
I think we're going a bit off topic, but I think that's due to the complexities in APAC, like the geopolitical complexities there, and
that's fair.
The CHIPS Act of what the Biden did. But you bill monthly, whatever, like that. Tempest, the company I work for both Tempest and Path, but Tempest is infrastructure as a service, so we can get into that. We bill monthly, quarterly, or per year, and we would incentivize you going for a quarter or year because of the actual churn rate in this industry. You'd think churn rate is not that bad, but because the actual demographic is getting younger and younger and younger, and capital is more expensive every year. Money's getting harder to come by. We're seeing much higher churn rate. People are going away quicker, and that's why we would give discounts up to 15% if you go annual, because we think, well, the cost of acquiring that customer every month is getting substantial, and we're not charging them enough on the monthly. So
Right.
that's why we do yearly. And these hourly providers, I actually wanted to get into that. What hourly, people are like, what, do you get a bill every hour? No. You are invoiced monthly. You get the bill monthly. But for every hour of resource you are using, so if you have, say, a smaller server, smaller computer for an hour, you're maybe paying a couple cents. Larger, if you have that for a month, it would add up to some dollars, right? But they make their money in these huge clusters of servers that people need for 5 to 10 minutes to train their models on something or to run an application. Like when you are you're on a website, right? Usually it has kind of a core amount of infrastructure as a service. But when loads gets high, they can usually spin up within the cloud or whatever, spin up other instances of infrastructure as a service, servers and stuff, to compensate for that load. So that's what kind of makes the most money, is when websites or other applications that require large servers for shorter amounts of time.
Right, which
Infrastructure as a
goes
service.
that we're
That's-
starting to go into the hybrid cloud infrastructure, which over at Hybrid we like to do a lot because it's in our name.
It is.
But hybrid cloud it starts to get more on the advanced side of things.
Absolutely.
But we might even get into that in our
I
next
just wanted to
episode.
go into like
episode 2.
what the billing
Yeah.
model of hourly is, and why would you do hourly? Why God?
Right.
I've never been a big fan of it. I think, for the two of us in the businesses we're in, it makes absolutely no sense doing hourly. I got a pitch from
Correct.
a person, hey, you want to do hourly billing virtual servers with me? No. I'm not going to sell something for 1 hour doing this many hours of work, because the customers I know are going to use it for a month and a half at least, and then, upgrade or downgrade, or if they don't like it, or keep it for many years to come. It's something I don't have much experience of. I have done hourly billing in the past on a company called Hamesnet, which was sold to SparkToast about 4 years ago, and they immediately took that out of the playbook and just did monthly servicing, which I absolutely think was a great idea.
Right. Do you want to go into some examples, use cases, providers and acquirers of infrastructure as a service?
Yeah, as I said, Netflix. Netflix is... YouTube is a good one too, but I think Netflix is king in this. They have a bunch of movies, and those movies are somewhere. Where are they? On a computer, in a data center, on a piece of hard disk, or whatever. And to get that computer to you, they're going to have access to internet. You're going to have access to internet too. It goes both ways, And they also need to make sure nobody's stealing that stuff. Imagine if you got a hold of all those movies, all that data of your customers. You need to have security. NordVPN. No, I'm kidding. Could be a good plug. We should do that next time. Get that sponsor. Also, if you want to sponsor this, I don't think anybody would.
We'll probably have a link down there. You can email us.
I guess email. Yeah. NordVPN, please do not though. We're gonna have an episode just on you, unless you wire us $10,000 in the next 30 days. Okay, Netflix. That's how it works. They rent servers or whatever.
we're just gonna leave it there.
We'll leave it there. Netflix. some good old threats.
Okay.
Good old threats.
Yep.
Netflix is the best example. YouTube is the same thing. How are they going to deliver those videos to you? Well, they need servers, they need internet, and you don't want anybody stealing that stuff. So Google has their own data centers. They don't rent from anybody. They don't have services from anybody for YouTube specifically.
Well, YouTube specifically is technically a separate entity owned under the parent company Alphabet. So they technically are all buying from each other, but exchanging their virtual currency.
Yeah, I'm not accounting today.
Yeah, fair enough.
Most people just know Google, YouTube,
Yeah,
keep it
that's
that way.
fair. Yeah.
We are okay. As we say, we are both providing this. So an example would be Netflix needs to have more movies in stock in the U.S. What are they gonna do? They need more space. They're talking to Kobe Pierce, hybrid hosting. They say, well, we
Whoa.
need this many servers. We also need to be able to scale during the day if more people are watching more movies. Okay, Kobe says, yeah, I'll do that for this price. Okay, and for every scalable unit, you'll do this price, and we'll bill monthly, right?
Right.
And that's how it goes. So, Kobe, you provide the security, or like data center. Nobody's going to break into that rack you have, and their servers.
Not planning on it, at least.
Not planning on it. No, you sell them electricity, or you just sell them access on the server itself, right? So you'll have a
Right.
computer you bought somewhere, probably Dell. Or
Yeah, and
build it yourself or whatever.
would we put in co-location to infrastructure as a service?
I wouldn't know, because I think a part of infrastructure as a service is the actual hardware component. Absolutely.
Well, you also have your hardwares and your routers and switches and networking equipment. So could co-location fall under infrastructure as a service? I think so.
It is a stretch, I would say. You can make the case for it, but I think that's for another day. I think co-location has worth of an
Right.
episode.
Could probably be its own episode.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, co-location is... It takes you 2 or 3 years in the industry to start thinking about that. Or well, some people like to jump in straight in. Go, I'm gonna have my own servers and stuff, facilitate. I know logistics, and then just it's the fan.
Then it all falls apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's co-location. It's not infrastructure as a service in my book, but other providers that you may have seen if you watch Linus Tech Tips, Pebble Host, right, or friend Dan.
I doubt that that's going to be a huge thing in this audience, but we can describe that a little bit further. Linus Tech Tips is a YouTuber that does content on computers, if you're not familiar.
Yeah, Dan did a sponsorship on there. He owns Pebble Host.
Yes.
That's why I thought most people would know that if they're listening to this. If you don't, well, you have a YouTube channel to watch. I would recommend watching it.
I recommend him greatly.
Yeah, I haven't watched him in a bit, but good guy, Linus.
Yes.
LTT. While others, Hetzner, Amazon Web Services. Yeah, where does Amazon's money come from? Every year.
Not Amazon. Their infrastructure as a service market that they do in cloud, which we'll get into next episode, but they do infrastructure as a service, renting out their servers in the cloud manner. And they really do all of their marketing with Amazon. Amazon, the product, is their marketing, which is quite interesting. They lose a heck of a lot of money on Amazon.
That's why, sometimes you can return an item, you're going to refund an item, but you don't actually return it. They just want you to keep it because...
Right. They can lose money.
Yeah, they could lose money, and they don't want to lose that money.
And really, all their goal is to get a loyal customer that may in the future say, hey, Amazon's nice. Let's use their data center solutions as well. Or
until you get the
cloud
bill
solutions.
and suddenly you have a meeting with accounting.
And then you have a legal meeting because you have to go bankrupt.
Yeah, we are both very much cheaper than
Yes.
significantly, in many powers, exponentially less expensive than Amazon Web Services.
Yes.
I would say, go check Amazon out. Oh, it says only 10 cents, and that's for a gigabyte of bandwidth per hour or something, and then you...
Yeah. I have actually, let me quote the message. I have a message from literally 4 hours ago. I had a customer of mine also use AWS for a side project. And he messaged me. He said, hey, I started on the free plan and just spent over $10,000 on accident. I want my money back, but they won't let me cancel.
Yep.
Do you have any experience with this?
I
I'm
have...
sorry to tell, no.
We were migrating a company to the cloud from a data center here in Iceland. They do use QuickSight a lot. They use QuickSight for their on-website graphs that they display to their customers, for BI calculations, business intelligence calculations. And, Amazon QuickSight is a product of AWS, which many customers use with their data, and it ended in a way where somewhere there was a leak. Somewhere in the compute part of their service, there was a memory leak, right? And Amazon at that time did not have anything to kind of detect that. Memory leak is kind of too descriptive, but resources that weren't needed were being built because the billing system thought it needed those resources, right? Something erroring was going on, right? And that, in turn, the bill turns up, and the wheel spins. The wheels on the car keep spinning, and it goes further, until
your flywheel is really getting going.
There was a company on Google Cloud that had a Java memory leak. Instead of paying about $2,000, which they expected by their calculations, they paid $246,000. They got refunded, but you can imagine what a simple mistake.
And what their accounting department looked like.
Yeah. So I would stay away from cloud unless you know absolutely what you are doing in terms of resources.
Yes.
What you need, what you do not need, and how you and if you're using
and
scalability
set limits.
algorithms. Yeah. Oof.
And set limits. That is the golden standard in cloud. Set limits.
Absolutely. Oh, you don't want to have unlimited resources. It's just like corporate credit cards. You want to put limits on people, okay?
Yeah.
Well, we've gone into Netflix. What could we possibly go into further? I put down Epic Games. I have already mentioned the DOJ.
We could go into platforms like Discord.
Spotify is probably the best.
Oh, yeah. Spotify is a good one.
Yeah.
Yes. So Spotify, as most people know, streams music and lots of it. And that requires a lot of bandwidth. And their choice of infrastructure as a service provider was Google Cloud. Just Google Cloud. Yeah.
Yeah, well, but let's go into the difference of Spotify when the song is downloaded and the song isn't.
Yeah, that's
Spotify
fair.
offline makes more money. Spotify has the incentive of you not being on internet or mobile data.
Yes.
Because then you are using your phone and the files on your phone. No infrastructure as a service is being used other than your phone, right?
Yes, infrastructure as a service in general is more expensive than doing it consumer side for stuff like listening to music. It is cheaper for them to send you your song once, you download that song, and then replay it 100 times on your phone instead of them sending you the song 100 times, because it is going to cost them 100 times more.
Didn't Napster work like that? Yeah.
Yes.
So. Downloaded the song.
Yes. But that was also illegal. So, welcome to
This
copyright
isn't legal
law.
advice. I haven't finished my degree yet, and I'm probably not going to
fair
do
enough.
legal advice here once I do finish it. I
Yeah,
do
that's
study
fair.
law at the University of Iceland.
Yes.
Hashtag law student flag.
But what Spotify does is they store millions of MP3 files. Instead of storing those on your personal device, Spotify uses the internet and sends those to you. The main reason that you don't download a lot of the audio, and you can only do that on paid plans, is because it is very bad for sound producers, because it's easier to pirate that information and pirate the audio, making things free, and in result not making Spotify money.
Yeah, Spotify wants money, unfortunately. So that's why
Yeah,
your
just
plan
like the
went
rest
up
of us.
30%. Like, what was it, a month ago or something?
Well, that was because of their whole podcast system, which we are currently
Oh, right. Yeah. we're
uploading
abusing.
to.
Okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
Spotify.
We are sorry that we just took 30% of your...
Do we want to get a podcast deal? Is that Spotify? You want that?
Spotify, if you want to sponsor us, I mean,
Yeah, come on.
don't mind.
Who doesn't like infrastructure as a service? Come on, this is riveting.
Exactly.
You know who's
Extremely exciting.
Who's Joe Rogan? Does he do infrastructure
he's-
as a service? Didn't think so. Okay. I can't do Taekwondo or MMA, but I sure as hell could spin up a server right now. I can tell you that.
Exactly. Can he spin up a server is the real question.
Yeah.
I doubt it.
Well, if anybody uses Zoom, that's also one example. Zoom is on infrastructure as a service. Everything's on IaaS.
Have Teams or Slack.
Teams is not, yeah. Teams is just Microsoft though, so they probably just use it. Or do you think Teams pays Azure? that's
Yes,
more accounting.
Microsoft pays Microsoft.
Yeah, great.
All I can imagine in that is like a bunch of clones of each other sitting in a room with money in their hands, just giving each other money.
Well, should we go into what we're in the purchaser side? How much are people paying for their infrastructure? And I can say that the DOJ did.
Yeah.
I think it was a $10 billion deal for 10 years. So $1 billion a year, one measly billy. To
Putting the U.S.
pretty
dollars
sure it
and
was
another
Azure. It could
billion
have been
dollars
AWS. It is they interchange. They do not like to
Yeah.
keep. They like to negotiate the DOJ.
It can fluctuate greatly,
It'd be
especially
8
if
cents
you're
an hour.
using.
It could be
yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, for example, cloud services love to be very cheap, aka free, for about the first month of usage, and then after that, they are going to charge you an arm and a leg, because that is how they go. With something like a more private cloud or private infrastructure system, which is what hybrid hosting and Tempest would be doing, is renting out dedicated servers, which can go individually for hundreds of dollars a month.
So, Kobe, what are you charging?
Here, let me go to...
Top of the line, bare metal, dedicated server, and your bottom line. 'Cause I could
Okay,
tell-
well,
I think
top...
Tempest probably has a more extreme polarization in that regard.
Should I list that?
Sure. What is your most expensive baby and
Our,
release?
our top of the line is an Epic 9754 with a terabyte of DDR5 for a little bit over $4,000 a month.
Okay.
So a bit of money. But if you're looking more towards our things that actually we sell a lot more of,
What's your most what's your most popular?
our most popular is one of our most expensive as well, but that's because that's what we stock most.
Yes.
Which we are currently out of stock, but there is a restock notification on our website if anyone's interested. But is the Ryzen 9, shameless self-promotion, is the Ryzen 9 7950X, which for you non-tech people is a very high-end processor with 192 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM and two 2 terabyte NVMe drives, some of the fastest ones around. We charge $280 a month for that. And that can fluctuate greatly depending on time. We've had people pay upwards of $360 a month for that.
We charge $399.99 for that base.
Yeah. Well, you guys do 7000 series yet?
Yeah, it's $399.99 base.
Oh, I know that.
Gigabyte config though.
Ah, yeah.
There's a lot of bandwidth internet, but most
Yeah,
people do not
so-
need that.
Right. So, in general, our current issue with the growing at hybrid is issues with just capital. It's a slow growing industry of the private cloud sector,
I would say
or
that
private
CAGR is
infrastructure
maybe-
service.
You could say CAGR is like really with inflation. First few years are, of course, you're a growing startup, but
Yeah, and it's mainly it relies on a lot of external money being flowed into it and put into the capital side of the business.
low.
Yeah, our cheapest server is an Intel Xeon E5 2680v3, two of those in one server, which is 24 cores, 48 threads,
Yeah,
100.
that's the name of the processor, which is usually the key
Yes.
component. So it's not the name
Yeah.
of the server. It's just what.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, it is labeled as just the CPU.
Right.
When it's advertised.
Yes.
You don't want to know.
Yeah.
That server could be called Joe, but you do not need
Yeah.
to know that to buy it.
So the memory of it is 128 gigs of DDR4 with 2 terabytes base SSD, and that amount is $80 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most expensive servers are $750, $1125, $1150
Yeah.
a month.
We are the provider for larger scale content creators and a lot of crypto businesses as well, blockchain technology. You know, we service people like Sauce Gardner, a lot of high clout clients that need extra security. It's DDoSing, you know, they're getting DDoS. Our servers have this extra layer of protection on their service.
We could do a whole episode over
It's
DDoS protection.
such an interesting topic, but
It is great.
The ways of the internet, man. But they need this kind of ultra secure environment to host their game servers, or you know, for their something to do with their stream or whatnot. They need a virtual streaming machine that does not get attacked, and they connect to that on their main computer and do, you know, however that works.
Yeah.
That's what we service, and that's why we sell kind of more of the expensive stuff. We do not push as much the less expensive stuff, and that's why churn rate for us matters so much, is because the spend per user is so high. What are your customers like? I can imagine they are high spending, but I don't think they're like that churning as well.
Yeah.
You have longer term customers, I imagine.
Yeah. In general, my clientele goes, they start in on some of the lower plans, are cheaper, and we actually facilitate a lot of growth. I've seen a lot of really small hosting companies that are built on us. They go from paying our $80 a month smallest dedicated servers and really learning the industry, and then going into our more expensive
Awesome. Like an
100
writers.
120, 200, and then having like upwards of 10, 20 servers. It really scales pretty quickly. It's quite interesting to see a lot of... I would like to maybe get paid for some of the advice I give, but I can't not give the advice. It's a part of it. I should really charge, but... You know, I do technically do hosting, infrastructure as a service, consulting, but I like to give to smaller
There's
businesses
always
away
a
for free.
consultant for something, you know. We got to do what we got to do.
Right.
Well, should we do a kind of conclusionary segment?
Yeah.
Everything, we wrap it up.
Alrighty. So, in today's episode, we learned what infrastructure as a service is, learning how services on the internet, what they run on, and where your physical servers are, and a lot of the use cases, the examples. That's been your host, Kobe Pierce, and
Your co-host. Who's host? Who's co-host?
we will never know.
Yeah, I want to apologize because we're always talking about there'll be an episode on this and this. We're just such a new podcast. This is episode 1. So I apologize if we're saying, data center, but that'll be covered later.
Yeah. And if you're interested in either one of us, you can find us both on LinkedIn and also our personal company's websites, which we'll do some shameless plugging. Mine is Hybrid Hosting, HYBRID, Leifer's company he works for is Path.net, which is just as I say it, or you have Tempest.net is their sub-company he also works for. So thank you for listening to the podcast, and anything else you want to say?
Just have a nice day. Thank you for learning, and see you, next week?
Yep, see you next week. See you.
Cheers.
Bye. Cheers.